And, there have been a few chiropractors, and many of them that have had, relapses of insanity and through this stuff. And I have too. And there have been times where I felt like I just need to take a shower. I got to wash myself. I went to the grocery store. I don't know. I got caught up in that energy at times, and it's not hard to do because we're human beings too. But chiropractic and being chiropractic and being a chiropractor and understanding our philosophies, where we are in this expression of life and chiropractic is essential in serving our people and serving chiropractic as a whole. And when we talk about being servers, it's not just our hands on the vertebra. It's also within the chiropractic itself, in chiropractic philosophy, in chiropractic education, and nurturing young chiropractors, and also chiropractors that have been serving for a lifetime. Some have been serving as long as I have lived. Pasquale, he was in chiropractic 80 years or something. It was just absolutely amazing. And, I have Steve Shargell down there. He's a good friend of ours in Florida, and, 40 something years, I believe. And I respect that in such a great deal, and constantly learning. It's not just what I've read today. And if we think of the Bible, it's not, you read it one time, it's a good book. People read it and study it, understand it, digest it, and each time reading it with brand new eyes, hearing it with brand new ears. That's how important our philosophy is, how chiropractic is. And we have our Green Book clubs, and I'm giving it a shameless plug for it right now. We've been doing it on Saturdays through this COVID thing because we have a lot of international students and students in the US. So we were doing it on Saturdays. For getting back to life, this was our last Saturday that we did, and we're going to go to Tuesdays at 8 p.m. Eastern time. So we're going to do that. I'll give you the code right now. It's 33, 1895, and 1895. I've just given the passcodes to everybody's pin in chiropractic.
Say that again?
33.
Yeah.
33, 1895, and 1895.
And that's for
the personal Zoom code.
Okay.
Okay. 8 p.m. Tuesday. I post it around everywhere. I'll send you a link. We do that. And what we do is we have Spanish translation. We have students in Mexico that they translate into Spanish. And now we're going to do in Portuguese subtitles. And then we're going to, I'm also do the Green Book Club with the Brazilians, and we do that in Portuguese as well. And I don't speak Portuguese very well, even though my wife's Brazilian, but we have it translated. The power of these books is unmeasurable. Unmeasurable.
Hey,
go ahead, Peter.
Every Tuesday? Every Tuesday at what time?
Every Tuesday, 8 p.m. Eastern time. Okay.
Great, thank you.
You're very welcome. And I'll have the second one for the Brazilian one, which will be different readings at different times. But we don't have a set time with them because it's a little bit difficult to get their translators. So immeasurable power in these books, not just speaking about this corporeal being with a subluxation and inhibiting a transmission from one place to the next. But when we read this philosophy, we read Didi's books, we get into BJ's, all the things that, the big gurus out there and that a lot of us people pay $50,000, $60,000 to go to, it's already in here. It's written by BJ. It's written by Didi. When we look into it as the nature and the connection of life through a spiritual lens and a chiropractic lens, it's in here in such a way, it is in driplets, little bits at a time. If you can't read, personally, I can't read these books as novels. I read it and I digest it and say, what in the world? Whoa. The concepts we read this morning, we picked them out very specifically because this is in volume 33, which is Fame and Fortune by B.J. Palmer. And we're in chapter 37, and it's called Meditations. And this chapter is very important to me because in school we started talking about these concepts. And Evan was in our class back then. We were together, and we had an amazing, and I think one of the most powerful groups ever, students ever to exist, I feel, in chiropractic at the time. We were sharpened by the steel with all the accreditation garbage that was unfounded. But this was one thing we talked about. I remember in our philosophy days, and I think about it all the time, where do thoughts come from? Where are they originated? My friend Pasquale, he used to say, thoughts are things. Thoughts are things. And not long ago, Peter and Patty had one of their the Thursday talks, and creating the matrix, a thought, creating the matrix for the fourth dimension to create it from the spiritual realm into the physical realm. That's such an important concept. And chiropractors think that way. And to me, it's just natural, right? It's become common nature as a chiropractor thinking that way. When we're talking in this one, and what I'm going to do in a few moments is pause me, because I can talk all day long because I get excited talking about chiropractic, and I love being with chiropractors. But I'm going to have, what I've also done, my Green Book project is having the Green Books. I started with volume 33. It's an awesome number. It's a chiropractic number, and it's a spiritual number. It's a very important book. It was written in, I believe, 1956, but I have a professional reader who has done this, and she has such a beautiful voice. Then we're going to also talk about Dee Dee's book, 1914, The Chiropractor. He died in 1913. This was a collection his wife put together, but I'm sure he had a hand in putting this, okay, do it this way, before he died. And I'm going to have a little reading from this, okay? What we're going to do is go through some things. We're going to talk about some other concepts, and then we're going to do self-center style and open up for a little conversation. The philosophy of chiropractic is not finite. When we know, okay, we know the principle, the body heals itself. We have a subluxation, that interference with the, Dee Dee said, vital forces, and the BJ said, what do you say? Not intellectual forces, whatever. So the vital forces, which are much more important, and Dee Dee was in 1910 talked about how BJ was off his rocker basically, and the chiropractor's adjuster, because the vital forces are more important. Vital in the living being of what's keeping us functioning at all times. That force is given to us through universal intelligence. That's the part's not talked about in chiropractic very much. What's most important is that we're going to do some of this reading in the most controversial chapter of all the books of chiropractic that have been written, and that's Dee Dee's first chapter, and it's the moral and religious duty of the chiropractor. Importantly, chiropractic philosophy doesn't come from our mentors. It doesn't come from our technique gurus. It doesn't come from anyone else besides the books that it was written in. And we can think in greater concepts, understand them in greater ways. And the old guys, I don't mean old guys, but the Chirosauruses back in the day, the term of breaking it down. We got to break down this philosophy. It's not reading it, posting an epigram, posting a little quote. That's not understanding. Getting to an understanding of chiropractic for ourselves and how we relate to it. How you relate to something isn't right or wrong. I'm going to say that again. It's not right or wrong. Your concepts and your beliefs are your colored lenses of how you see the world. Because this is going to be right for you, and it's going to be right in maybe different ways from the person next to you. And we're all in little squares. It's like Hollywood Squares here, if anybody remembers that show. Maybe you're not old enough. But, you know, I feel like Monty Hall right now. But understanding these concepts, each person may have a different understanding of this. That's why you're not right and wrong. Philosophy classes in school give us This is philosophy. They did the best they could for people that had no idea chiropractic had a philosophy in first quarter. Chiropractic philosophy should really be done the first 3 quarters and then the last 3 quarters, I feel. Okay? But no one's asked me yet. When someone does, I'm gonna tell them the same thing. So what I'd like to do right now, I'm gonna play this the recording and of the chapter 33 meditations, and we're gonna not do this whole chapter, but we're gonna do a portion of it. Okay? You might want to get a pen and paper.
What is a thought? It is something we think. What is the process by which thought comes into being? Is it a reflection backward into memory of previous thought? If so, how account for the old or new original thoughts? What is an idea? Is it an assemblage of thoughts formed into a larger thought? What is the process by which we assemble thoughts into an idea? Is it an addition of associates of previous thoughts dragged from memory into today? If so, how account for the old or new original ideas? What is an ideal? It is a gathering of practical ideas that work, formed into a higher understanding, evaluation, intended to produce something better. It is an improved series, twist of multiplied association of previous ideas, dug out of the new deeper recesses of memory. If so, how account for the old or new, original constructive ideals? Do thoughts, ideas, or ideals exist without matter through which they are expressed? Can matter exist without thought preceding its origination in form? If so, how? Are thoughts, ideas, or ideals ethereal and in existence without form and without matter? If so, how would man know? Can matter take tangible forms without thoughts, ideas, or ideals to create them? When we gather external impressions from environment, take them to what we call our conscious mind, interpret them, separate ones we want to save from ones we discard, what we have left is education. For what purpose do natural composite animals or humans think educated thoughts, ideas, or ideals, except that they be manifested, expressed by, and through physical actions for some greater, grander, more glorious service beyond the ken and outside the bounds of the constructed views of the limitations of one person that causes all thoughts, ideas, and ideals, as well as their actions, to fit into some greater scheme of things? From what source do we, as finite beings, receive thoughts, ideas, and ideals which eventually are applied in corporal action? We think we see man fitting himself into some unknown destiny of thought and function resolving itself beyond his limited understanding. If physical action is dependent on thoughts, ideas, and ideals, so far as we know and understand, and if all manifestations of moving, living beings are dependent upon thoughts, ideas, and ideals, and this depends upon an organization of matter such as brain, nerves, muscles, organs, viscera, and a flow of mental impulse supply between them, acting as an intermediary between immateriality and physical function. And all this is beyond our scope. Then who or what is the maker and organizer of matter through which thoughts, ideas, and ideals flow? If it takes all this in us mortals here on earth, how much greater must be thinking values, how much superior must be thoughts, ideas, and ideals of that beyond our reach, which thinks, conceives, which makes not only us, but everything that coordinates the living reproducers, species, and families, generates its own power, transmits it as needed, expressing itself, personifying greater intellectualities and intelligences that create living, thriving, component organisms. If we are a product of a greater producer than our inferior educations, how much greater must the producer of us minute, humble products? If we are the product of a plan, then how much greater must be universal intelligence producing that plan, as we educationally think thoughts, ideas, and ideals, trying to direct ourselves and govern all others. How much greater must be the thinking values, superior ideas, and ideals of the superior producer that issues all individual inferior products. Realizing how fearfully and wonderfully we are made and functionate, how much greater must we rely upon that universal organization that makes, evolutionizes, and revolutionizes all matter everywhere. If we grasp this greater understanding in its infinite wisdom and acting, it is common sense for us inferior products to act towards this superior power produced with us as an insufficient, infinitesimal, subconscious mind to be despised, belittled, and scorned. If we grasp a knowledge understanding of this infinite, innate power within us, how much more service could we render a sick world, knowing it and it alone thinks thoughts, ideas, and ideals, getting sick people well. When we reach that conclusion, we will realize how humble we are, how little we inferior products produce, regardless of what we think in our thoughts, ideas, and ideals, knowing they all come from a source greater than our simple educations.
Okay, I know that was a lot. The educated, innate to educated, and are educated, these simple thoughts that we are men and women, the beings, that we have anything in this corporeal world. Innate intelligence is such at a higher level, there is no thought. The way I relate it to our people when I do my talks in the office, could you imagine digesting your food and making this beautiful human living clay that you live in? You would be still thinking about your very first meal, nursing with your mother today, and digesting that first meal. It is that complex. We can put a little bit of intellect in it. We've done some research in it. We know a little bit about the Krebs cycle because we had to suffer through biochemistry in school. We know a few little bit of things, yet we have no idea how to make one living cell. And we have trillions of cells within us. And we're all communicating with each other as a big bag of cells. And realizing that, you know, I love the term someone said, like, we're just big meat bags, right? We're just these big, beautiful bags of meat. That's all it really is. We've learned some things in utero from our mothers, from the world around us. And I always say we've learned things from people which ends up being fatally flawed because it's educated. That educated starts convincing the innate intelligence that it's correct, like talking ourselves into being sick. Or other people, the negativity creating us to be sick. When we're truly living this beautiful expression of life at all times, innate is on the job. This is spirit. And I start going back to the original terms that actually Dee used, and BJ in the very beginning of saying spirit and God. People don't always like those terms. And I understand in a way, maybe there's fear in that. But in reality, they're very powerful terms. And Dee and BJ said, they're too powerful. People aren't quite ready for them yet. We're going to start using universal intelligence and innate intelligence. Big bag of Pam meat. Pam, you're hilarious. So once we realize, all I can think of is this big bag of Pam meat. So this beautiful life inside of us, this spiritual intelligence reflected from universal intelligence, creating this environment of life to go protest if one wishes, to go and be on a call right now if from Boston all the way down to Florida, and thinking about life instead of thinking about how life runs within us. That concept of self as a chiropractor, that I am not the adjuster. When we talk about, I teach, my seminars, innate adjusting workshops, and I do a few a year. I teach them in Mexico. I just got invited to Brazil, which is really exciting. And because enhancing chiropractic around the world, we've got a lot of great chiropractors already going to Europe. Pam's going to Europe. She's teaching chiropractors there. She's been my mentor too. And getting to these schools in Brazil and Mexico, which are booming right now. It's absolutely amazing. Innate adjusting workshops. It's not just adjusting with the hand. It's adjusting what's between our ears and understanding chiropractic concepts. I know a bone moves, I understand it. We can create a somatorespiratory wave. We can create a vibration or a tone. We can allow that tone to resonate within that body, but it's up to spirit and innate to do the job. When it's a forced job, just to do it. I'm crunching this, I'm crunching that, right? If I'm conscious and I'm doing it from an educated sense, it's a forced job. This is what another man or woman has taught me. Then it must be true. But if I separate myself from that and I listen from within, and what is that spirit telling me? How am I supposed to serve that spirit? Because I'm not just serving the meat on the table. I'm serving that innate spirit. That spirit is connected to a realm that I'm yet to understand. And it needs us. When we connect spirit to spirit, that's the something extra that BJ spent all these volumes actually trying to figure out. Everyone said, what did he mean that's something extra? He didn't know himself, but it was not from educated. Most of the books are really talking about separating educated from innate and acting innately. There are a couple of books, volume 18 and so on, that talk about, research and technique, and X-ray volume 20, which is one of my favorites. It's such an awesome book. Dr. Clarence Jensen, who is one of my mentors in Toggle, he was at Clearview with Dr. Nell Williams way back in the day, and I used to get a lot of really cool stories about BJ. He gave me a volume 20 that BJ gave to him. It's one of my prized possessions. The educated mind, BJ spent most of his time talking about that because he was trying to wrap his head around it. When I get a spiritual flash or innate flash, where's that coming from? That's what this chapter, in a way, is getting to. It's going to get to that. Dede was before his time. Dede, he was talking about not creating, but understanding more of the pathway from universal God intelligence to innate intelligence. The end result is the educated, but really what it is, the end result's the material. Connecting the material with the spiritual. That's where chiropractic has been afraid, I feel, to dwell. That's why it's been easier to spend more time in BJ's work. Now is the time to get back to Dede. Dede was far ahead of his time. Dede was far ahead of his time. When we understand the concepts, and you know what, I'm just understanding them. And let's go back a little bit, because I mentioned Pasquale Sarasoli, he was my mentor, and there's Pam in a whole other Hollywood Square, and Patty together. Oh my goodness. So when we look at these concepts, Dede was just beginning to understand them himself. And that's what Pasquale, he used to talk about. He goes, remember, he was just beginning to understand these concepts. He was just putting them in paper. Now is for us to, with our understanding and service of chiropractic for 120 plus years, to bring this more into light. And that light shining within. And I'm going to get to the word subluxation, because less than is not the only definition of sub. Okay? People have gotten a lot of mileage out of less light expression. And I like it. I like it. I understand it. But I don't want to live in lack anymore. I might get people a little mad, get a little pissed off because they're stuck in the concept. And that's okay. Less light expression. I don't want to live with less light. So I want to get adjusted, right? Oh, I want to be hyper light. It also means under. Sub means under. And we use it as under most of the time. Under the expression of the light. Under the expression of the light. If we only look at it as a lack term, that's what we're going to see. And BJ said it himself, I only see subluxated people. I don't see I see subluxated people, all of them under the light of God. Okay? And that's not religious. Let's get out of that concept. Whether they're carrying guns in Seattle or wherever that is in Washington, I don't care. They're still under that light. When we're given the people, the men and women that have gotten the inspiration, which means to bring in spirit, to say PR, PRI, ASRA, the inspiration to say, I've got to teach these concepts of adjusting. BJ Palmer went wild with it, didn't he? Grostic, Gonstead, Don Epstein, whoever got these wonderful, beautiful concepts, Major DeJarnette, we got inspiration to do it, which is, to me, a spiritual connection. And they were shown a pathway, take care of the people this way. Adjust it like that. Creating that stairway to heaven. I know you just heard it in your ears. I should play that music right now, the stairway to heaven. When we're adjusting people, we're doing so much more than helping them get well. The wellness portion of it, I don't tell people I'm in wellness. I'm not in the wellness profession. I'm a chiropractor. I do chiropractic. Yes, I work in wellness. Yes, wellness is an important concept. But what I work with is life. And life is a spiritual connection. I'm going to play a part in just a few moments of Dee Dee's chapter 1. I'm not going to do the whole chapter. I'm only going to do, hopefully I can get it properly on here. I'll cue it up right now as I'm talking. Hold on one moment. So hard to do on a phone. I have it saved on my my Google Drive. Thank you, God, for Google Drive. I mean, I tell you, man. So anyway, but these concepts, looking things as bigger under the expression of the light. I feel we're living in lack way too long as chiropractors. Let's live in hyper expression of the light. Under the expression of the light. No more less light expression for me. And I tell the people, and I don't use the word patients, I call them people, I call them my people or the people. When I tell the people, it's really, this is what we're looking for. What would you rather have? A concept of darkness or a concept of light? We're working with that concept of light. There's a few physiological things we'll talk about, the bones and all these little bits of things, and getting adjusted, why it's absolutely important. When we look at the big picture, and I feel that the time has really come for the big picture of chiropractic. I was looking for this, I have it everywhere in my office, and it's Pasquale from David Shiner's book. He published it a few years ago. Forgive me, I've forgotten the title, but he had many chiropractors in it. I do believe Peter might have been in there. Pasquale's section in there. But it was also on the card at his passing celebration. It was on the back of it, and I have it everywhere except now. I can't find it. But when we understand the spiritual connection of chiropractic, people will really begin to understand what chiropractic is all about. We're in a major energetic shift in this world right now. And this world, I mean the entire cosmos. Because Peter's picture right there really explains it all. All that stuff out there is a reflection within. All the stuff and energy out there is already inside of us. That is in me. It is in you. It's in every cell. It's a projection of us. So that universal intelligence, innate intelligence, educated intelligence, these concepts we don't talk about much anymore. I don't understand that in chiropractic, and getting back to it. What is this call? I can't see it from Patty, from Pam. Anyway, I can't read it. that is a little distracting. I lost my way.
It says, I'm
So-
obsessed with Pan.
Okay.
Pan did that.
Now, as we go through this last little bit, we're not talking about religion. I want to say that, and I'll repeat it, because we're not talking about a religious sense. Now, Todd Waters just posted something the other day, and I want to join the Chiropractic History group, which is really amazing. They deserve a little bit of money and things as well, so I want to support them. And he's going to talk about the years that Dee was really talking about being a religion. And I want to know what that is. I want to understand it. Religion is, to me, is not the important portion of it. It's the spiritual connection. And as I'm caring and serving each and every person, that's where I draw my power, because each adjustment I give, I also receive. I want to give the cleanest adjustment I can possibly give. And I mean clean is not going through a filter of self. I mean clean is not having anything to do with Haig. I want clean to nothing to do with the Armenian plight of my family history. Have nothing to do with the outside world in Washington. Have nothing to do with COVID. Have nothing to do with my child having a fever or a toothache, but to be a clear and hollow vessel of expression of universal, innate to innate and back through. When I am a channel, doesn't mean I have to be channeling spiritual words from dead people, but when I'm a channel of spirit, I'm truly serving chiropractic at my absolute highest. So I'm going to leave with that. I'm going to play this portion, okay? And then we'll open for a little bit of discussion. Does that sound good with everybody? Okay. Oh, you're not sleeping. People responded. All right. Okay. This is a moment behind. It's hard to get second by second on here. I apologize. I'm supposed to start at 9:19. I'm at 8:58. That's the closest I can get it. All right. So this is the moral and religious duty of a chiropractor, page 3. That's where it starts. We're only page 3. I keep thinking of that. It's only page 3 of all this. There's so much more to dive into. We have it on MP3. We're going to talk about that. Maybe, I'll mention it now. I'm trying to raise money to do it more because I have professional readers. It is hard stuff to read, but I have readers to do it. Jim Sigafus, my other mentor, he tried to do some and he did some really good work, and there's some great audios. We're not going to repeat his, but we want to raise a little bit of money so we can get, because kids don't read anymore. We're also translating them to Spanish and in Portuguese, okay, which I've already begun doing in written form. Then we're going to do those in MP3. All right, I'm going to start this now.
Neighbor, apparently living under the same conditions, remains well. Furthermore, it makes plain the reason why one or more of the bodily functions are performed in an excessive or in a deficient degree of frequency or intensity, either of which condition is a form of disease. When educated and innate intelligences are able to converse with each other, a possibility which not a very distant future may disclose, we shall be able to make a correct diagnosis. Heretofore, these two intelligences have misunderstood each other concerning the laws which govern life. When the science of biology is correctly understood, the span of life will be more than doubled. Chiropractic has pulled aside the curtain of ignorance, which obscured the cause of disease. In time, it will lift the veil of superstition, which has obstructed our vision of the great beyond. In time, spiritual existence will be as well known and comprehended as that of the physical world.
Wow.
Chiropractic science includes biology, the science of life, in this world, and the recognition of a spiritual existence in the next. The principles which compose it are substantive in their independence and incentive to human and spiritual progress. They originate in divinity, the universal intelligence, and constitute the essential qualities of life, which, having begun in this world, are never ending. It is an educational, scientific, religious system. It associates its practice, belief, and knowledge with that of religion. It imparts instruction relating both to this world and the one to come. Supreme spiritual existence can only be obtained through earthly experience. Chiropractic sheds enlightenment upon physical life and spiritual existence, the latter being only a continuation of the former.
Okay. That's a little tidbit. That's page 3 and portion of 3 and portion of 4. And I just want to say, just to acknowledge all of you, I wish I knew you all better. I want to get to know you better. Just showing up is tremendous. I spent my time the best I could with the old guys in chiropractic because I wanted to get to as close to the source as possible. They all, successful chiropractors, all started their day, every day, usually with green books. Not reading, Deepak or anybody else, that too, maybe, but in the green books. Getting back to green books, getting to our basics is important, but we just went through some heavy concepts. Now, I could say what I'm thinking, and I think I have already. It's 7:40. I don't know how late you go, but I would like to open up for everyone to be able to express themselves. Self-centered rules, how Pasquale did it in Brooklyn, and they still do it in Brooklyn. The meeting is after this one, which I'm joining in afterwards. You get 3 minutes to talk, 2 minutes to answer up to 3 questions. Brooklyn, they're really strict. Part of what Pasquale taught us was how to speak succinctly, get our point across, and say what we mean. When I was at the CCE meeting, and I think Peter and Patty were there back in whatever year that was, 2012 or whatever, when Chiropractic was sold down the road, they said, you get 3 minutes to speak and a couple of minutes to answer a couple of questions. And I said, thank you. Pasquale was on my shoulder. I told a story about a baby failing to thrive and adjusting a subluxation in baby. I don't want to go into the whole story, but it brought tears to the humans on that board. There are many non-humans that are there. I think they may be cyborgs. So, but that's how important being succinct. So let's open it all up for everybody. Don't all speak at once. Who'd like to go first? Evan?
Can't speak. What happened?
There you go.
There we go. Okay. So, Haig and I were in Life University in a group together. So I'm going to be brutal to my brother out here. And I'm going to say, when we're respecting innate, I'm a diehard technical esoteric. And so one of the biggest things that's really annoyed me and created problems is say, hey, you give a thrust into the bone and you respect innate, and your responsibility is gone at that point. And so I'm going to bring the responsibility back to the chiropractor and say, yes, innate is better than us. Innate knows more than us. I can't build even a left arm for you. I assume you're right-handed. I can't even build a left arm that will work as well. So when I adjust a person, how can I judge whether or not that adjustment was effective, right? However, I must be accountable to myself as a practitioner, as a doctor of chiropractic. Did I deliver? And this is something that's bugged me my entire career in a way that's made me powerful, that said, hey, I'm annoyed. I don't trust innate to the point that I say, hey, it's up to innate. No, it's up to me to recognize the signs that I've delivered an adjustment that is of value, and to say when I've adjusted somebody that I haven't adjusted them in a way that's of value, I have to do it again. I have to go back to it. That's my educated intelligence needs to recognize, nope, I didn't deliver. My educated needs to say, yes, I did deliver. And yet I need to have trust to innate. Hit me. Where's the balance there? Right? I have to trust innate, and yet I have to trust my educated. Which one do I trust more?
I would like to say something. You could all gang up on me, and I love it. And I will love to answer those questions, but let's get to some more. Go ahead, Pam.
I agree with Evan. I'm just kidding. I'm not going to gang up on you.
I don't mind.
First, I want to apologize because I'm a little bit of an imp, and especially on Zoom, it brings out some impish quality. So sorry for being a goofball and distracting you. I was trying to bring Patty back in. Anyway, I love what you're talking about light and spirit and us working with that. It reminds me of like reading about the shamans, you know, in their practice. And so, you know, how do we allow spirit to move through us and it's, you know, and connect spirit to spirit. I love that conversation. And to answer what Evan is saying, the way I think about it is like with any art, this is how I do that dance, is like with any art, or let's say we say dance, you know, if you're going to learn to dance, you learn the steps and you learn the structure and you're in the thinking part of it. And it's a very heady process. Then you surrender and the music moves through you. And that's when you're joined with the universe because you let go. Same thing with carpentry or painting or art. You know, you have to, some people have to learn a technical thing. Some people are just naturally gifted and show up to a guitar and can play, but then they might learn educated things in order to allow more of life to flow through them. So I think of it as being like a figure eight. If we can, now someone's turning my own game on me. If you notice, my name just changed. And it's true. I didn't write that, but it's true. Anyway, so, you know, if we can allow a figure eight kind of experience between, you know, building up our, you know, our knowledge and our, you know, our skill, and then surrendering, and then building it up, and then surrendering, and doing that as gracefully as we possibly can. That's an amazing way, I think, to practice. But that's my experience of what we're talking about. And thank you, Haig. Really lovely conversation.
Thank you. I would like to add one thing. Evan, it's not about running and going punching someone in the back or driving a flying 7. I think that's where the concepts that maybe within a technique or teachers have picked on chiropractors that are doing things different than they do. And you think of that type of concept of someone adjusting and just going crunch, 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 crunch. This is what I do, or what have you. We're talking about a understanding and a level where a connection is far beyond the physical. So when it's listening with our fingers, because our tools, well, this is another thing that a lot of technique has taken us away from, is that we are more powerful than an X-ray, a nervoscope, a Titron, an EMG with our fingertips and with our love in our heart. And I say that is the most precious thing we have. And when we're clear, then the spirit will speak to us. And I know this is a deeper conversation of absolute clarity, where it says, pull your blocks out. And I will only use Dijonette blocks, but get your blocks out and block this mom right now. Or, you know what? Get an activator. I use an activator 6 times a year, but it comes to me, use the activator. And I don't question. It's the questioning that's the educated getting in the way. And that's what most of his books were writing about. B.J. Palmer was, what do we trust? I trust the thrust, but what do we trust? Get out of that and allow that spiritual message to come in and trust it. The more we do that, the more it becomes fluid, and the dance becomes more magical. And the partners we're dancing with become in harmony, just like, you know, that Pam was talking about. But it's not a run up and I'm just going to crunch this guy. It's a much more refined level of adjusting the concept maybe I'm talking about. Were you going to say something, Evan?
No, I feel it. It's get past a certain point of respecting educated, respecting the reality in front of you, and getting to, that's a building block. You know, is the person standing between their feet when you see him stand in the posture? Is the head standing strong? Yes. But then what you just said, if I can paraphrase it, is there's the educated of the head should be on top of the human. The pelvis should be between the feet. there's another level that you're looking to touch into. And it's like, it's giving reverence to the basics. It's giving reverence to the science and the art, and then allowing for a greater level to come through. That's what I just heard.
I'll give you a couple of concepts. I love doing upper cervical x-rays. I love x-rays, okay? I choose not to do them any longer as much. If someone gets in an accident, I order x-rays. If someone let's get an x-ray here. I do some x-rays occasionally, but I have studied them night and day, dreamt about x-rays. I see those concepts, I visualize it. Let's look at another sense. When I was in school, I spent as much as I could in time in technique, going to the clubs, going to everything, and I still do. We just invited Dan Lyons is going to be coming to Melbourne, Florida, and we're going to do a Gonstead seminar with who I think is the gold standard of Gonstead. We're going to have BGI for the second time at my office with Marcia Segura, which is Nancy Brown's sister, the gold standard of BGI now. And, you know, so I still absorb it. It's not about not learning anymore. Taking the educated part away from it isn't what I'm talking about, but knowing it so in depth that it's absolute innate response. Mm-hmm. And it comes from love. I'm going to give you another story that I've told 80 million times, of my mother who had heart disease. They want to do a third bypass on her. I'm going to shorten it. I'm not going to do it like I do in my talks, but she started getting better. I was practicing in New York City, and her heart disease basically was going away. They didn't have to do her third and final. They could only have 3 bypasses in her lifetime. So she was holding on and suffering as long as she could before she went to the third bypass. And I came back from New York. I started adjusting her. Heart disease gone. All the markers normal. Her body's healthy. Her sciatic pain got worse and worse and worse. And I turned into a therapist. Mom, right. I'm trying to help my mom. That time she was 80 years old. She's going to be 90 in August. God bless her. And I wanted to be a therapist. I want my mom to be out of pain. It's my mom. It hurts. Sciatic pain got worse and worse and worse and worse. Her little shriveled up kidney was growing to 8.5 centimeters and functioning again. So I had no idea what was going on, nor did anybody else. So I backed away, and I said, we're done. I'm getting back to who I am as a chiropractor. No more of this therapy things that I wasn't doing therapies on her, but I was adjusting her to get her sciatic pain better, which is a therapy. Okay.
Right.
So I stopped therapizing her and continued to adjust her. Her sciatic pain got worse and worse and worse, and she was dragging her leg. And I said, her body is healing something. And it was her kidney going back to 8.5 centimeters. So there would be no markers. Nobody would know that was happening. So if we're just trying, if my end result is to see change in my educated mind, I've missed the whole concept of healing. There's so much more going on. And I tell my people that I can't make your back pain go away. You might need to heal your kidneys or your liver or your pancreas first. Heal the heart first. You only get one. Heal the kidneys second, because she only had one working, but she had 2. That was second on the list, and Nate knew better than I did. Third on the list was that sciatic pain. That was third on the list. You could live with the pain in the leg. It sucks, and I've had it. But maybe something else was going on. That's where we're looking at the bigger picture. This divine being is so much smarter than the doctor outside of it. And I feel like I'm preaching to the choir. When we let go of what we know, that's a hard concept for educated people. And, I don't consider myself an educated person. My father was, I called a polymath. He was probably one of the most intelligent people I've ever known, but had no idea how this body worked. And I know we say this thing over and over again in chiropractic. How do I know what I'm doing is right if I've just learned it from another person?
Right.
I think of the concept of CMRT, of bloodless surgery, I prefer to call it. How in the world did Major DeGenerate come up with that? He helped his wife, right? He got an inspiration of, wow, that's where we're looking at that light shining through, and he was able to write it down and teach it to people. But to me, he took a spiritual concept and made it earthly so we can understand in our little educated brains. I think it's absolutely amazing. I love it. And Evan, if you're still up for it, I'll get a group together, and if we could do a Zoom, we'll do a little CMRT workshop. So I look at things in a bigger picture. And I don't look at things as a bigger picture. I look at things, I am not the big picture. I can't help someone, but chiropractic can. How many people have you had come in your office and say, well, as soon as I felt like I made the call to come in, everything got better, right? I didn't have to adjust them. They started feeling better. And the energy of chiropractic and connecting that innate never ended. And they were healing. So that's what I have, and I'm sticking to it. Anybody else want to express something? Well, I love you. Evan, you want to say something?
What I love the most is that you gave reverence in a way that I haven't heard before to the struggle between innate and educated intelligence. And we've seen a lot of the same speakers on the platform. We've been to a lot of the same seminars. I love, and I'll tell you what this guy's into later if you want to PM me later. No, we've been there together, and it's an area of like giving reverence to innate intelligence above your educated intelligence, almost being disparaging to educated. And I think the way that Haig just put it now, Dr. John just put it now, is like, no. Your educated intelligence is important. And there is a rivalry between the educated and the innate. And it didn't occur to me until you put it that way that BJ talked about that rivalry. I always assumed that it was bad. And the way you put it caused me to realize that it's not. It's actually a healthy rivalry between, did I deliver an adjustment to that human or did I not? That's educated. Being surrendering to a power greater than you, that's having reverence for innate. I think that both those things need to exist at the same time to be a good chiropractor. And you gave me something tonight. You gave me that struggle in a way that was both a struggle and it was congruent at the same time. So I appreciate that.
Thank you. And it made it all worth it. I really appreciate that feedback, Evan. I really, really do. That's awesome. Mary?
Hello, Dr. John. Thank you very much for this. I'm second generation chiropractor, so I was raised with chiropractic. And I saw my mother die suddenly when I was 13, breast cancer. She died after a year. And it surprised the hell out of my father. He didn't see it coming. He got sick as a dog and had bleeding ulcers and almost died a year later. 5 months before her death, my uncle died of lung cancer. He was a chiropractor too. So as a young child, I really got to see how a lot of people got sick from death and how it affected them. So as the years went on, when I went to chiropractic college, I got involved with concept therapy. And I saw what Dr. Thurman Fleet did and how he took DD's work and he kind of simplified it and he made it pretty logical and easy to understand. So I was never a big person to get into the green books because I always found them very wordy and very complex. And so, I'll go back to the green books because I'm always interested to see how it's being said. But Fleet and concept therapy talked all about educated and innate and showed the spiritual connection with our spirit world to what's inside of us. And what I see sometimes that's missing in the profession is that doctors don't help patients direct their innate, direct their spirit, and help to give them the tools they need sometimes so that they're not messing up with their own educated mind, that they're not messing up their own spirit intelligence with bad thoughts, whether it be fear, worry, anger, greed, jealousy, all those things vibrationally affect the innards. So it's hard. It's good when we're adjusting and we try to get our head out of it and let things flow. But there's times that the patient really needs some direction to help them heal. And so those are my thoughts. So I appreciate what you said.
Thank you. Anybody else? Well, it's 7:59. I feel really, lighter. When we talk about enlightenment, I feel lighter. I feel that it was a really great group. We were all connected. And, I would love to, come back again, share again, be part of the group in the Peanut Gallery. And I just want to, I have one more plug. July 11th, I'm going to be at Parker for our workshop, innate adjusting workshops. And we have one at Sherman that's supposed to be in August. I'm not sure how that's going to go. Just with classes, I think a lot of people have left town. So we're going to see how that one's still tentative for Sherman. So I love and appreciate you all, and thank you so much for having me. This is like, a big check mark of my bucket list. That is super awesome. Wicked awesome. It's wicked awesome.
Hey, you did it amazing. Hey, gave us an awful lot to think about, and also rekindle the fire of our philosophical and spiritual premise in everything that we do within our practices. I can't thank you enough for sharing your wisdom, your heart and soul, your mind with us. If you could, we have posted your Green Books study, but if you want to type in the chat section those two places that you're going to be at Parker and at Sherman, that'd be awesome. In case you guys know students that are at the schools or you're traveling there, that way we can hook people up. Thank you, everybody, for being. Oh, Mary, you had something to say?
Yeah, Dr. John.
Unmute you. Go ahead, Mary.
Unmute her.
Yeah, I just did.
No, she's muted.
Okay.
There you go.
Do you have any way you can get Portuguese translated materials for chiropractic?
There's very little in Spanish or Portuguese. So that's why we're translating Green Books. We're doing philosophy meetings. I go down there and teach, chiropractic philosophy and adjusting because there's so little that's in Spanish and even less in Portuguese.
Yeah.
And these schools are booming. There's so many principled chiropractors that are just juicing for chiropractic. And so I urge everyone to get involved if they can. And now we're in such a virtual world that and anybody that wants to join in or what have you, it'll be awesome. So, it's necessary, and not just for chiropractic, but for the people that receive chiropractic deserve the best chiropractors.
Yeah. Thanks.
Okay. So I wish when I have it, I'll send it to you. Okay.
Okay.
I look for it myself. What we'll do is we're going to start creating it.
Okay.
Thank you.
Principled stuff. Okay.
Thank you, Haig.
I love you guys.
Love you guys. And everybody, next month, we're not sure yet, but we are probably still going to be doing via Zoom. I don't think they're going to give us the chance to be in person. But August, we are planning on having a picnic, as we always do, the second Saturday of August. So everybody have a great week, great month, and keep the power turned on. Thank you again, Haig.
Bye-bye.
Hey, this is where you would be right now. If you were up here, you would be in our house, having a glass of wine or beer. You'd be eating food. You'd be seeing Peter and Patty, all the people that are here. You'd be seeing us hanging out in the living room.
I've been there.
Been here.
Awesome. Hey, did you ever get my hot sauce from Joyce? Did you ever get my hot sauce from Joyce?
Oh, yeah.
Told her to bring.
Oh, yeah.
That's right.
He did.
Awesome.
That's great. Thank you,
Love
guys.
you guys. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Bye. Good night.
Right.
Bye-bye.
You